as Amy said, I run Lapis Angularis, a consultancy in digital transformation and marketing operations. Today I will be talking to you about how you can use operations to help you with improving your automation strategy. Before I get started, I would like to get a sense of who is with us here in the room. So can you raise your hand if you're on the brand side or on the client side? Agencies? And the rest are technology vendors or... Yeah, okay, great. And who has a remit of both traditional and digital? And keep your hands up if you are focused only on digital. Okay, great. Thank you. So, what we will cover today is we will walk through what are the challenges that are facing marketers in a more and more increasingly complex landscape. Then I will walk you through a framework of how you can set up an integrated marketing organization. We will talk about the benefits, and I will close with some tips and best practices that you can take away and implement at work. A few words about myself first. So I run Lapis Angularis. Personally, I have 17 years experience in the digital space. I've worked both with on the client side and the agency side, both developing and implementing digital transformation and marketing operations strategy. My experience has been global. I've had the chance to live in different cities, and I've been lucky to be here for the past 5 years. And aside from my consultancy work, I'm also a blogger. I speak at events like this. I train in marketing operations, and I write books. And here are some of the brands that I've worked with in the past. So first, let's look at how the new reality, what is the new reality that is facing marketers. Around 15, 20 years ago, information was flowing in one direction, from the brand to the consumer. And the one metric that marketers were concerned with was impressions. How many people could see the ad, hear it, or read it? But over the past few years, things have changed drastically, and it feels like with the constant pace of change, we are going through a tornado that is very chaotic and changing things on an ongoing basis. And I like this caricature because it depicts how the consumer is behaving today. So we know how hard it is to buy shoes. And imagine this poor salesman who sat there and got all of the boxes from the back, only to be told at the end, thanks, it's great, give me your Wi-Fi password so I can go and find it cheaper online. So it's not fun, but that's what's happening. And the challenge for marketers is to understand how can we leverage both our presence on the high street as well as our presence online to optimize the experience for the customer. In numbers, now e-commerce makes up more than 50% of transactions. And the statistics that I heard last week is that now there are 250 million visits to the online high street per week. That's a lot. And if you think of companies like EDF, which are utility companies, now they have 55% of their accounts that are self-serve, meaning it's users who do not want to pick up the phone. Instead, they'd rather go online and manage their account online. So that creates quite a challenge for organizations to transform and be able to service these customers. 90% of multiple device owners now use different screens to complete a transaction. So they can start by looking up some information on their desktop at work. They can then use their smartphone to keep looking up for information during their commute. They get home and they use the tablet in front of the TV to then complete the transaction. And hotels.com, some of the statistics they compiled is that now they have 3,170 different mobile devices that access hotels.com on a regular basis. And these use upwards of 1,000 different screen resolutions. So it's quite a nightmare to develop your content and your apps to work on these different devices and with the different screen resolutions. And that's because today, consumers, you can reach them across multiple touch points. Information is flowing in so many different directions. And what used to be a one-size-fits-all approach has now been replaced by one-to-one communications and precision marketing. More importantly, customers are empowered to create their own content about your brand and to share it not only with their network but beyond it, because people retweet and share information. So while you still need to create brand awareness, that's not enough. What you need to also do is to look up for ways to identify those advocates that will speak positively about your brand and share that information and spread the good word about you. So that's happening on the consumer side. Internally within the organization, there are similar challenges. With the rise of the various digital channels, agencies and brands now have access to hundreds of tools that they can pick from to implement their marketing programs. Scott Brinker is a technology expert and blogger, and he compiled a list of the marketing technology platforms available. As of January of this year, there were 967 different tools depicted on this. So how easy is it going to be for the marketer to identify the best tools for them to do their marketing? If we look at marketing automation in particular, there's quite a few here, probably 30, 40, or 50. So how can you find the best tool that fits your business needs, your business requirements? Now, marketing automation tools or email deployment platforms or social media platforms, all of them combined will be collecting huge amounts of data about your customers. So you are dealing with, even though I hate to use the term, but big data is a problem that we have. And according to a study on what are the biggest challenges that marketers will face and have to focus on in 2015, data has been identified as one of the top ones. Because even though they have the data, marketers are uncertain as to how they can utilize the data, extract value from it, and optimize it to improve the customer experience. Now, to make things even more complex and difficult, with the rise of the variety of channels, there are many specialized agencies that come in and they do social media marketing or PPC marketing or direct marketing. And what that is doing, that's adding to the complexity because you have many more stakeholders that are involved in the marketing delivery chain. And not only externally in terms of vendors, but also internally. So IT gets involved because they have to help source the right technology platforms and then maintain them. Legal gets involved because they have to ensure that you keep data protection policies and privacy policies in mind. Procurement and finance get involved because they need to make sure that you are spending the budgets wisely. So that creates a very difficult problem. And that also talks about another challenge that marketers have identified for 2015, and that is talent. So talent is a big problem because, let's be honest, marketers are not like professional bankers or accountants. As an industry, it's not seen as professional. The other challenge is that there is minimal diversity. So I attended the Digital Awards ceremony last week, and out of the 25 awards that were presented, the people who came up to take the awards, 90 to 95% were white men. So that's also a problem because there is talent outside that specific group, and we don't see the diversity in marketing much. And finally, there's a serious lack of training. There are many organizations that provide training, but it would be very tactical, and it's hard to pass on the knowledge from one team to another or one person to another. So what does that do to the organization? Regardless of the size of the organization, large, small, multinational, or local, or whether it's B2B or B2C, marketers are complaining about a lack of standards as to how their internal teams and external vendors should operate to provide this integrated and seamless customer experience. And what we are dealing with is a very siloed organizational structure. So what that does is that it becomes very difficult to be efficient, effective, and compliant with policies. And the minute you hear efficiencies, obviously, then there's an issue with the cost of acquisition increasing. And last but not least, given that there's now too many stakeholders involved in delivering marketing and too many tools that are used, it's actually less it's less easy for marketers to understand what is the marketing ROI, what is the return on marketing investment, or to prove that digital drives conversions. And that's an issue because when digital came along, marketers went to the board and requested additional budgets and promised that, hey, with digital we can track, which means we can report and we can tell you exactly what's the return on investment. But that's not happening. And the more serious problem is we're talking about silos. Why are we still looking for digital to drive, to look at how digital is driving conversions? That's a big problem because digital is part of the organizational DNA. It's an integral part of business, and we cannot think of it as a separate entity. So in a minute, I'll be walking you through a scene that many of you might be facing day to day. But before I do that, I want to look at how an organization should operate in an ideal world. Companies will always start by defining their business objectives. And these business objectives are then translated into various functional strategies. So for our purposes here, the business objectives will be driving the marketing strategies. This is when marketers want to justify why they are investing in marketing. So they sit down with their agencies and they start developing these complex, sophisticated, and quite elaborate strategies, which is great. But in an ideal world, marketing strategies will be constrained quite a bit by policies. So take, for example, a strategy to increase, if the objective is to increase market share and the strategy is to use maybe CRM to reach out to customers and increase sales. One of the policies, the data protection and privacy policies, might dictate who in the pool of customers and prospects you can reach out to. So it's very important to understand that so you know how to define your policy, how to define your strategy. Once you have that understanding and you want to proceed, then it's time to implement. You need to find the right tools that will help you in delivering that strategy. Same thing, it is important to know how policies will impact the selection of tools. Again, in that CRM example, can we choose any email marketing platform or one that will only allow us to contact those people that have not opted out yet or that are still opted in? And a marketing automation platform, do we decide to contact anyone or only those people that have been inactive for more than 2 years or more than 3 months, whatever that requirement is with your organization. So it's very important to define and understand the policies because that will help you in selecting the right tools or customizing them to your requirements. Together, the strategies, policies, and the tools will then drive the design and the development of a process. And if that has been done right, in the sense that the requirements from a business and strategy perspective, as well as an understanding of the policy, have all been baked into the process and the tool, then those guys at the bottom of the chain who are delivering the campaign, they don't have visibility higher up to objective strategy and policy. All they have visibility to is they get the content from the agency, they put it in a tool, they hit the send button or launch button. So if things are not baked into that process and tool, delivery will fail. But if done right, then the organization and the marketing organization will be operating in a seamless way. Back to my example of what happens day to day. Reality is quite different. You might still start with business objectives that are clear and concise and that everybody at the board level and the executive team level will agree that they can do that. Once we go into the funnel, that clean box turns into this elaborate, sophisticated marketing strategy with a lot of bells and whistles. And things may start breaking up because when it comes to the process, people, let's say one of the requirements was to implement a microsite or to launch a microsite. Well, that microsite, the organization hasn't done that too much in the past. So the brand manager talks to the agency and tries to understand how do we do that. The agency wants to be helpful and they say, well, let's host it on our servers. This is a microsite where the brand is going to be sharing product information, maybe run some kind of a contest and collect customer data. somehow somebody's walking through the hallway, they hear two people talking together, IT picks up on what's happening, and they come in to say, actually, you're breaching policy. If you are going to be collecting customer data, that microsite has to be hosted on our server, not on the agency servers. So there's a bit of a panic. What do we do? Obviously, a microsite is low on the IT priority list. So the issue is escalated to the senior managers on both sides. Some priorities are changed. A solution is found, and we continue with the process. And then next thing to be done before the launch, maybe 24 hours before the launch, is to implement the tracking cookies and tags on the microsite to understand who's visiting, what they are doing, and so on. And again, another panic. What happens is the team realizes that one of the major KPIs that was identified in the brief cannot be tracked in the current tracking system. Another panic attack, marketing talks to the technology vendor. They find a solution, but that requires additional investment, which finance had to sign off on, and they were not happy with it. I'm seeing a lot of people laugh here. So finally, the campaign is launched. Solutions, people can find solutions. These problems are not rocket science. It's not like going to land on a comet or something. So a solution is found, and the microsite launches. But what looked like a clean, concise box just looks like it now went through a war zone. And there were compromises throughout. People worked extra hours. They were frustrated. The agency guys were about to quit. The campaign cost a lot more than initially planned. And it's a problem that people are experiencing day to day. If it were a bit more quiet, I would ask you, what was your experience? Okay, good. Hopefully this will help. So what's actually happening is a typical broken down siloed organization where the business objectives are still driving the marketing strategies, but then you have tools that are driving execution. The team is reactive to policies rather than proactive. And all along, you've got some consultant that came in, developed a process, and it's collecting dust on a shelf somewhere or lining up a wall in a hallway, and the organization is not leveraging that investment. But there's hope. So where do we go? It's possible for brands to achieve a true automation, and this is by creating an efficient and integrated marketing organization to fully leverage not only the tools, but also the people and the processes that we have in place. But before we go through the definition of marketing operations, here's a quote that I really like from Michael Porter, who is a strategy guru at Harvard University. And while you might expect him to be focused on strategy, what he is telling us here is that for strategies to be successful, they have to rely on a strong operational foundation. Your organization needs to be operationally efficient to be able to deliver on the strategy. Okay? So, what is marketing operations? Up until recently, when I talk to people and I ask them that question, I hear all sorts of things from affiliate relations or online acquisitions or anything that did not necessarily fit within the traditional marketing box. Around a year and a half ago, the IDC, which stands for International Data Corp, they ran a study with around 200 different CMOs. And they came up with this definition. I'll give you a minute to read through it. So basically, given that you have many agencies to work with and many tools that you need to use, it's very important to make sure that everything in the ecosystem works well together. And a marketing automation or marketing operations manager acts like the conductor who is directing the orchestra and making sure they produce that amazing symphony, which is marketing excellence here today. So in terms of how can this be applied to your business, here's a standard framework whereby first thing you need to do is you need to have clarity on what are your business requirements. How much of the work do you want your marketing team to do, and how much do you want to outsource to the agency? How much of the work do you want to do here in the UK versus offshoring? Are there any requirements to work with one specific full-service agency, or can you go to different specialized and channel-specific agencies? So you need to understand what are these business requirements. Then you need to get clarity on what are the policies, not only from a privacy and data protection, which are things that are set by the government, but also internally. Does finance have policies that prevent you maybe from working with a certain vendor? Are there any policies that prevent access to customer data by third-party vendor, which means you need to hire people internally to pull lists and do the segmentation? So once you get that understanding, you'll be able to identify who is involved in the marketing ecosystem, who are the people that will be delivering your programs. And then you can go out and define what tools you want to use, or maybe change the settings on existing tools to customize them to your requirements. And that will then drive the development of the process. But the foundation to the program is the involvement of people, and at every level. For the framework to work, it has to be supported by senior executives. So these guys have to be involved, they have to sponsor the initiative, they have to be they have to help drive it across the whole organization. But you also need to bring in people outside your organization. So any vendor that is involved in your marketing delivery has to be involved in that. And once you identify all of these people, then you can go in and provide them with training. Remember the challenge I said marketers faced in 2015? It's data and talent. So from a talent perspective, it's very important to provide a comprehensive training program, not only on how to input content into a tool, but also why are you doing this? Why is it not allowed for the agency to host the microsite? If they know that, they will be more efficient and they will not waste your budgets. When all of that is understood, then people can go on, they can manage campaigns, run them and deliver them. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to get the reporting and analytics you need, and you will get you will get a better understanding of what the ROI is. And the objective here is to bridge the gap between all of the stakeholders across that ecosystem, to optimize the use of marketing technology, to create an environment of transparency and accountability where people cannot hide behind their fingers and blame it on somebody else. And you enable, when people know who is involved in the process, they will be able to go and ask the right questions or ask the right people, and they will be able to share knowledge and best practice. This is a very standard model. You can apply it to your marketing automation delivery chain. You can apply it to social media management. You can apply it to online advertising. And at the end of the day, it can then propagate across the whole organization. And if and when well implemented, there are many benefits that you can get. So one of the main reasons of having a standard tool set that organizations use is to standardize how data is collected. Let's say you have 3 different products and 3 different agencies that help you with your campaigns. If each agency uses a different platform, data is collected in different ways, so you can never compare consistently across product lines and measure success in a consistent way. But if you have a standard marketing automation platform or anything else, then customer interactions will be tracked and measured in a consistent way. And when you have a data set that you can trust, then you are able to drive campaign strategy with that data. And that translates in a much more seamless customer experience. Also, with the adoption of a standard process, your team will be executing campaigns without guessing how to get things done or what policies to follow. They will be accountable. There will be an environment of transparency. And what that means is that if they are not running around trying to get things done, they will be able to act on new opportunities and proactively respond to market feedback. As well, they remain interested and engaged. You don't have a high employee turnover at the execution and delivery levels. And this comes with huge financial benefits. Some of the clients I've worked with have been able to benefit from up to 30% cost savings on their operations structure. And this is not money that will be wasted or maybe goes back to finance. It's money that could be reallocated to strategy development. And this is what people want to be working with. And so at the end of the day, the main benefit is an improved and more accountable return on investment and better accountability. Now, some best practice tips. The framework that I described, it looks simple and straightforward, but it requires the whole organization to be behind it. And there will be massive change. And people we know will resist change. They do not want to change how they do things or to be more accountable. So it's critical to get senior executive support to help drive this transformation. And the other critical thing is to encourage an environment of collaboration. So whoever is going to lead this initiative will have to engage with and involve stakeholders across the entire ecosystem, internally and with agencies and vendors. You can use social tools to allow people to collaborate together and share information easier. And it's good to mix up the teams. Like, we're not saying change somebody's job, but my old boss actually is now working for an e-commerce company. He used to be in product management. He's now the CTO. And while we were in product, we always used to complain about IT, but now he is IT. So what they have done is that he shares the office with the CMO. So by sitting in the same room, they hear each other's phone conversation. They hear when people come in and start asking questions, and they have a better appreciation of the problems. It's no longer a personal issue, oh, this guy is trying to annoy me or what. It's more about how can we work for the benefit of the business and make everybody's life easier. A few other things, be agile. Don't go and change the whole world. Start one step at a time. Fix the basics. And try little things. If it succeeds, fantastic. If it doesn't, then move on to the next thing. It's okay to fail. It's actually recommended to fail, as long as you learn from it. And make it easy. Most of you have seen the change in the gov.uk website. They've had thousands of pages and thousands of links, and they moved everybody to the new website without telling anyone. And that's because they had one simple principle: no link left behind. They found every single URL and they redirected it to the right page. So when you're making a change, yes, it affects the entire organization internally, but also customers. How do you make it easy? Technology, as long as we have the collaboration, you can have the technology people help you with providing that solution and making it easy to the customer. And finally, transformation is not only about that sexy customer-facing stuff. It's about how we are going to change internally to be able to survive. Because if you are waiting for a case study in your industry to justify the investment and transform, that will not work. We've seen what happened to Blockbuster. We've seen what happened to HMV, to Polaroid or Kodak. I can't remember anymore. If you do not transform, the brand will disappear. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any anecdotes. Oh.
Yes, thank you, Adele. Thank you very much. I think we should give Adele a round of applause for her speech there. Very interesting. And I could see people trying to take photos of the screen for particular slides, but it will be available online. So if there's anything that you saw that you think will be particularly useful, you can get it on the website after the show is over. And I'm sure Adele would also be happy to speak to you afterwards. The previous speaker arranged to email his slides to individual people if you need them faster than that. So do we have any questions from anybody in the audience? Can you wave at me? All the slides from all of the shows, not just this theatre, but all of the theatres. So if there was a show that you wanted to see at a different theatre, but you decided to see Adele's instead, then you can catch that online as well after.